The Therapist and the Coach podcast is a space for real relational conversations about what it means to be human.
In a world obsessed with fixing, achieving, and self help, we invite you to pause, lean in, and discover the wisdom already inside.
Together, we explore how healing, growth, and transformation can happen not in isolation, but in connection.
Through open hearted dialogue, we challenge the myth of self regulation and self improvement, offering instead co regulation, psychological safety, and the power of being seen. Lerae, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm good, Oren. I'm excited about podcast number 2.
Me too. Because today we're going to talk about relationships, right?
We're going to talk about the power of relationships.
The power of a relationship,
I think,
isn't it?
yeah. I'm excited about that because that's something that you and I really, when we first met or and were introduced, that was a place we fell in love as
That
far
is
as
very
our,
that is very true.
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
it's I remember like after the first time I said like the sometimes you can't really put the finger as that, but so you feel so connected and the vibration is just so aligned,
Mm,
which is
mm,
so much part of connections because so many people think that when they connect to somebody else that they actually connect, but there is not much connection because they're not aligned.
yeah,
If you connected, you feel it viscerally, right? And bodily. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 So, so that's why we're here, is
That's
because
why
of
we're here
that
today.
alignment and connection. And also, it's a topic uh, that I'm so excited to discuss with you because we shared our alignment and our understanding in the power of relationship, but we really haven't, because our relationship is new. We
Exactly.
really haven't dug into some bigger questions about that. So, and we don't
Right.
have a script here. So,
Right.
I'm kind of excited to see where we go.
Where we go with it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It brings to mind that relationship is something that look very different from the first time that like let's say that you go on a date, right? The person that you see the first time is not exactly the person that you see 3 months from then or even a month after that. And let's say after 40 years, the connections are growing and depends on the trust also and how it evolves and different parts of us are coming to the surface at different points.
Mm.
If I go to the first date, maybe I want a little bit more behavior and be looking good and all that. And after 10 years, you don't care about that. It's other things are important and you're accepted for who you are if it does go to that direction.
Yes. Yes. And then
It
there's all those
evolves.
the whole honeymoon idea.
Yes, exactly.
And you and I could say that we're in a honeymoon. I'm
We
choosing
are on the
that we're going to
absolutely.
stay in a honeymoon always, but that might not be real. But
This
I
is so true. This is so true.
so
This is
there's so
so
much
true.
hope, and then but I also know from my experience in relationships and also what I've learned about relationships is that there's a that just what you're saying, I portray to the world that which I think the world wants to see, or I evaluate consciously or unconsciously is my best self. And
Yes.
then life starts to happen, therefore the shift out of the honeymoon phase, or what's been termed the honeymoon phase, and things get real. And if the skills and the connection and the commitment isn't deep enough, that can is where things fall apart or people get hurt. We start to pull away from that where we fell in love. So
So
I
true.
know for you, I'm just going to say this publicly that I'm committed to doing whatever work I need to do to stay in
Well,
love,
the same here, and that's what I think that
connected with
is
you.
nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's what you're saying is so wise. That we are an example for the honeymoon phase. We just got to know each other. We align with parts that we know. But if you look at it, I usually look at it like islands. Sometimes we just brought one island up and we're staying on that. It might be a great vacation, a great honeymoon place, but we know each other for the time that we know. And I'm sure that other parts of you and I, just like any kind of relationship, are going to start coming to the picture again. And hopefully the island that right now we are is not like so many people are getting into that honeymoon phase and that's all there is. And they commit to things. Sometimes people getting married after a month, for example, which is sounds like, oh, it's the one that hurt that. Well, sometimes and I understand the kind of sometimes you feel like you met somebody that's kind of a soul connection, you know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm.
But it doesn't mean that the relationship could work. You might have a very strong connection. How many times we know people that are very strongly attached to themselves, yet they can't get together, yet they can't be together because other parts of them come into the surface and they're not aligned. They do not align. And
Yes.
it's so nice and wise to hear from you, which I think this is really the reality of people sometimes jumping ahead of what they want the relationship to be based on their injuries so many times inside. The
Mhm,
kid might be so scared, wants to secure somebody. Let's just put a fence underneath around that in order to make it secure.
mhm,
Well, actually, underneath, it was never really solidified. And then
mhm.
those bridges obviously don't hold. So I think it's first of all for us to say the relationship is something that you got going to go step by step, even though some parts of us so many times are so excited and so want to imagine how it would be, sometimes to soothe
Mhm.
ourselves.
Well, keeping with the metaphor of the honeymoon, often most people go away so you make the connection, you're married, then you go away for a honeymoon, and then you come back to reality. Like that's the full metaphor.
Exactly.
And that
Exactly.
reality, which you're surfacing in this conversation, which is okay, if I'm portraying my best self in that time, then what am I not revealing? And
Mhm.
you refer to it as the child. What was the language you used?
I call it kind of like, sometimes when we're, let's say that we're shamed for a child,
Yes,
that we're shamed that a child
yes,
was something and we need to perform, right? For
yes.
the other person to be with us.
To get the needs met, the
To
love, the
get the needs
acceptance,
met, and kind of there is shame inside maybe that if I bring this up, the person that I want won't be there with me, that I
right.
need or want won't be there with me. So I think this is where the relationship grow if there is actually capability from each part to
Mhm.
allow the other person, and that comes honestly from if it's safe or not. It's not something that we can decide, right?
Exactly. So there's this is kind of cool because our last or first podcast was given that our name is the therapist and the coach, and then we looked at, okay, what are the similarities, distinctions? We probably could have had a series of 5 or 6 conversations on that because I don't think we're done there yet. But
We're
here
not.
is
We're not.
emerging
Right. Right. But if we'll come
another.
back through that to see the differences, we'll come back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's a difference in perspective or how you view it, but it's the same. So you're looking at the traumatized child or the hurt or the affected part of the being of the human experience, and that there's gates around that, and that is the self-protection. And so we don't reveal that. So I sometimes think about it, okay, so if I'm portraying a portrait of how I want to be seen or what I think is going to be acceptable to the world, those parts of me, which are still parts of me, it's still true.
Absolutely.
All of
Absolutely.
that I'm painting it.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing about imposter syndrome that always gets me is that there's still parts of yourself, yet I can't accept them because what I refer to that part is as the secret self. When I have a secret, I'm out of integrity. I'm not my whole self. I live in a distorted reality to maintain the perception.
Exactly.
And that's where my energy goes is to maintain and paint that portrait and adapt the color to be what the next version of what people are expecting. And wherever I go, and that's a lot of
Absolutely.
work. And then you also reference the gap, like where the break or the disconnect is between my whole self, because the secret self or the wounded child or the hurt self from the psychotherapy perspective is there and part of us, but unacceptable. So there's like this judgment of this is unacceptable,
Yes.
or you nailed it with unsafe. So if it's unsafe because I learned early on that to reveal these parts of myself, if I'm angry, if I'm too much, or if I'm too big, or if I'm not enough, or I'm like all these things that live in that shame-based place where we're like, ooh, that didn't feel good. I'm never going to feel that level of humiliation or shame or something else again. So I'm going to tuck that away. So that's the
Right.
secret I'm going to hold, is that I have this part of me that was wrong, bad, or made to think was wrong or
Yes.
bad. So
Yes.
then I get busy very early on, forgetting my whole self and just working at the portrayal to get. And why? Okay, I'm on a roll. And why?
Oh,
Because we're human beings and we're hardwired for connection and
exactly.
belonging. And if we don't belong, that, tell me if I'm wrong or right here from a therapy perspective, that is a risk. Like psychologically, that
Absolutely. Oh,
is
absolutely.
like could be death. If you're left behind and
Absolutely.
you're not part of the
100%.
pack,
You're right on.
you're alone and you are at risk.
You're 100, amen. I second everything you said. You know, we call that, I mean, it's like different names, obviously, they're going to the same thing, you know, the false self and the genuine self. And
Mm.
so many times I can give myself as an example, you know, my parents expected me to be something, and you know, you always sudden want to make sure that your parents are okay and you're loved.
Well,
And you
that's
start,
survival
and you
too.
vibrationally, yeah, and vibrationally, you start picking
Mm.
up when your parents loving you and we're not, and you
Mm.
immediately becomes that. At that point, it stopped being about your authentic self. Like, for example, I played tennis for many years, was about to be professional. And my
Wow.
father, yeah, and my father really needed me to win. It was as if he was just like, now he would take me to training. He would be like the perfect parent. I just enjoyed playing tennis. I didn't want to do all of that. And so all of a sudden, my performance became what's more important for my dad rather than enjoy it, just have fun. So part of the big part of me as Oren, as a human being, was shamed, and that was not important. So how could I be me when the person that I depend on, talking about relationship,
Yeah.
it's relationship of also I literally was depend on. We're kids, we depend on
Yeah.
our parents.
Well, I mean, that's where the greatest threat is, and I think that's where a lot of this stuff does start is
Exactly. It's and then again, it's right. It starts then, and this is where the relationship, but also how we have the relationship in the here and now, are affected by how could we really, was it for us
yeah.
or was it for their needs? Now,
Yeah.
all parents wants to have good things for their kids, but so many times without knowing, they transfer their own wounds to the kids without knowing that, and having relationship based on dependency. But the kid needs to be dependent on the parents. But
Mm.
if the parents depends on the kid, that the kid starts doing things for the parents,
Mm.
become
Mm.
she becomes what they want her them to be, and losing parts of herself. It's shamed. It's going down. She might even not
Mm.
know that that's part of her. So there's different kinds of relationship, depends on who we're relating to, right? And what
Mm.
we're, yeah.
You know, I have been like eager to I'm realizing I want to become a better listener in this space with you because you say so many things that are so inspiring
It's
to
like,
me. And then I like I and then I'm waiting for my time
that's
to
wonderful.
talk
That's
and I
wonderful.
stop listening. So that's a I just realized that's an area of growth for me in our this
Oh,
space
it's all
we
good.
share.
I'm very happy that you just because it's like we're talking, we're passionate about that inside.
Yes, yes. Well, and now that I've said all of that, I may have forgotten what I was so eager to share. Oh, yeah, no, I got it. So, as a parent myself, my children at this point are 17 and a half and just turned 16, and they are fully baked in the sense that they are who they are. And I have been in full transparency. There, I think there's I've got so much to say right now, but I want to first say that what you're bringing to light is that it doesn't necessarily, or what our conversation is bringing to light that I want to really make present here is there doesn't have to be a big trauma. Yes, abuse might impact that or affect that safety on multiple and different and more extensive levels within oneself that makes that healing journey uh, more complex or difficult. I have never spanked my children. I have never yelled at my children. That was a commitment that we made to our. It's like, well, let's talk, let's talk, let's talk. I was totally confused when my daughter started to show who's the oldest. So there's a birth order thing there. From my psychological background, I understand that there's a thing there. Um, Simply by birth order and what's on the first
Right,
child. And,
right.
I was learning to be a parent with her and she was
Yes.
teaching me, but I wasn't acknowledging her as the teacher. So what she received in that was she had to do it right. So there's not only that, so perfectionism has shown up in her teens, which has surprised me because I've never expected anything from her. And yet, how did I raise her? Oh, good job. Like positivity, positivity, positivity. So guess what? If she doesn't get that positivity, and I thought I was doing the right thing. So,
Exactly,
maybe we can
exactly.
just say that this is the human experience.
Absolutely.
And there's different on a continuum of affect. There is a continuum, but even in the most loving and what I would think emotionally safe environments, and I'm not perfect. Like there's wobbles for sure, right? There's, I
Who does? Who is?
yeah. So and there's conflict and that kind of stuff, and we talk through most of it, but it's really interesting to hear my children's experience and what they've internalized as a result of me thinking I'm doing the right thing
Yes,
and
yes,
being educated in child and youth
yes,
development and
yes,
family life stages and like all this stuff from
yes,
my background.
yes,
And still I'm like, okay, let's talk about progress, not perfection. Let's talk
yes,
about
yes.
you're okay, the world's okay. Let's talk
Right,
about, and those
right.
are hard conversations for her because and if she's not getting the feedback, she feels insecure.
Yes.
Like it's
How?
how? Right, so
Yeah,
but here we go. So
here
this
we
is
go.
actually very real for me right now because I'm contemplating this and so I'm quite energized by what's surfacing in our conversation.
I have to, first of all, I had goosebumps when we talked about that because it is so, it just, not that I would love to give you compliments anyway, which I
Yeah.
love. You want to give, you're a brilliant
Well,
woman,
maybe
but
that's why I
and
like you.
very kind. But I want to tell you something that is important for me also for other people to understand.
Mm,
You are so safe at this point to have this podcast and as a parent, as a human being, to say, I did my best under any circumstances that, and our parents did the same thing. We might be angry with that. They might have hurt us. They probably did hurt us the way their parents hurt them. It's like they decided, like, as you said, like I decided not to spank my kids. And let's say that you hopefully didn't, but let's say that you got spanked and you said, like, I'm not going to do it to my kids. The trauma inside that your parents got to you and my parents gave to me stayed there. We might have decided cognitively that it was so bad, and let's say it was the vibration was so negative that in order to survive as a defense mechanism, we have to have positivity all the time. That's one way. Or for my father to win in tennis, something that he could not do his soccer, just kind of like reiterated that my father married my mom and she told he was a professional soccer player, and she
oh
said
wow.
it's either me or your professional. He chose her. Now look what happens. It was unfulfilling injury that he has from his own place that he put on me. I was a passenger. I was born to fulfill a need that was not there, and yet he was the perfect parent that will take me to training, get me all the equipment, running frantically every day. Everybody said, "Oh, he's so dedicated," which he was, but for his own need, without even knowing that his injury is playing out. But what I wanted to tell you, Lerae, is that I think I hope people can see how solid you are to say, yes, that part of me, that was part of what I brought. I try to be that rather than say, well, I just gave you everything you need, you did that and shamed your kid back.
Mm.
So, so it is so, and I do carry, we all carry our parents inside. We internalize them. They become part of our family inside.
And it actually extends further than that.
Yeah,
It's our history. It's the cultural, it's the stuff that we are born into that we did not ask for, that we don't even realize was put on us
exactly.
and or we
Amen.
picked up intrinsically. So I mean, we're so complex and beautiful as human beings.
Yes,
And
yes,
so I do want to
yes.
just take a pause here and because we're talking about the power of relationship and this is where we've ended up so far, which is pretty cool. And I want to first speak to the word solid and what that actually means to me, because I think it's important. It's a word and it can be interpreted, but I didn't get here by accident. I got
No.
here because I was committed not to perpetuate the uh what I experienced as a child, which was incredibly painful and disconnecting me from myself. And it wasn't, it was, there was physical abuse, there was but it was mostly emotionally and mentally, which was very confusing for a highly
Yes.
sensitive
Oh
person.
yeah.
So somewhere along the line, for some reason, I made the choice, and so I was an older parent. I went to university thinking I wanted to work in that field, but I think I just needed the skills and the healing.
Yes.
And I worked for a year, and I think, as I
Dito,
told you,
Dito, Dito in here,
yeah,
just to talk.
yeah. Well, you stayed in the profession. I'm like, I'm out. Like, this is not my jam. This is gonna break my heart. Um, but the other thing is that we're talking about the human experience at really, we're covering conception and
Mhm.
forward, and the result are whether it's would be judged an healthy environment or not. The fact is that we all, so I want to normalize this across the board, we all
Across the board.
will internalize our experiences,
Yes.
and because of that belonging, and because we are human beings and we can't extract ourselves from our social reality like that.
We can't. We're
So I
byproduct.
think
Absolutely. 100%.
we this hiding of self, that, or like secret self or child self or wounded self, and the protecting that and working at being accepted, being belonging, like all those things, or being the best or whatever equals safety, that's normal. Like, I want to normalize
100%.
that.
100%. We, yeah.
So
100%. We all byproduct of the relationship in an environment that we had.
yeah, yeah, and it's nothing that can be healed. So I'm going to go one step further in my honesty and integrity, because I actually told a half truth here. And that is, okay, I've never spanked my children, but I have slapped my son across the face when he was 3. I'm going to say that out loud because it speaks to the power of relationship. And there was one time with my daughter where I didn't yell at her, but I indirectly shamed her. I was over, it was just a situation, and I said to her, "Why do you do that?" And it was just something that she was doing. That She was a kid, she was 3, and "Why do you do that? Why do you do that?" We were both crying, and it was very intense, and I can see the impact of that on her. And it was just a moment. It was a moment, and I apologized, and but the wound, or whatever that was, for however she internalized that as being, okay, I did that, that wasn't cool for mom, I feel like this. But then with my son, he's spinning out of control, and we're actually in a situation where, and so I snapped him out of it, and I just went dick. And and then I called my husband immediately, like, "Oh my God, I just, slapped
Yeah.
Eric and blah, blah, blah." And so, but so here's the power of relationship with self. So I cannot be in relationship with other people to the extent that, or I can only be in relationship with other people, I believe, to the extent, and life, to the extent that I'm in relationship with myself.
100%.
And here's carrying on with that story is, we now joke about those things. I realized that I had to bring them up and check in with the kids about, "Do you remember this?" And both of them remember. "What was that like for you?" Ask them to tell me. And I just sat there crying, because that was what I was holding too. I was
You
holding
felt you
that
scarred
shame.
them. You felt kind of you created permanent injury, and it will be there with them forever. And that's
Yeah.
yeah.
So now they joke about it with me, and we laugh about it. Like, the sting and the pain and the shame is gone. So now it's part of the tapestry of our family,
Yes.
and our experience, but the pain and the shame are gone, and the connection is greater, and the trust is
Absolutely.
greater. And that I believe, and I'm open to learning more about this, and expanding my awareness, but I believe that is the pathway to healing and the power of relationship, and why this idea of self-help is almost dangerous as
Yes.
far as it being a misnomer, because I don't think we
Yes.
can heal alone.
Oh, you just warmed my heart to hear all of that. I mean, I really feel like I want to say amen, and I do that, and I want to say part of relationship is they're going to be fractured. They're going to be fractures and repair. The fractures themselves, from neuropsychology, neurobiology part, is going to happen. We're human. We're going to be reactive sometimes for people. I'm talking about as parents, we're as spouses, as humans. Sometimes we're gonna get hurt. We're not gonna be perfect. We don't need to be perfect.
That's
As
right.
we, and we're not. We are going to transfer sometimes. We're human. We're gonna be sometimes, whether it's a kid that we love, whoever we love, we're gonna be sometimes triggered. And that's okay. We all do that. And
Mm,
not only it's okay, in terms of my experience, and also then again with the neuropsychology research, interpersonal neurobiology research, the fracture is, sometimes there are surgeries that, let's say the bone, it didn't grow well. Sometimes, let's say the bone is not growing. What the
mm,
surgeons are doing is they break it. They realign it, and actually it solidifies much better than the bone was growing that. So almost like I want to say the fracture doesn't
mm,
is going to happen, and we don't need to avoid that. If we avoid that, we don't let the parts of us coming on regular basis to say, I'm angry, I'm not happy, I'm not that. It's like we constantly need to perform,
mm,
while actually the humanity of us is sinking because we can't allow to be human beings.
mm,
Of course, I can be sometimes angry with my son. I can be that. I might say things that are hurtful that I know that I did and I couldn't help it, for God's sake. But the important is to come back later, is to do the reason that I think it's like was working, but what you described with your kids is so wonderful. I completely understand that she triggered you. Every parent is triggered, every kids are triggered. They're going to be fractured. We sometimes do even things that we're not really proud of. Not out of that, we wouldn't do that after thinking about this, like, oh my
mm,
God, what did I just do? And there's then we are ashamed that we maybe scarred our kids. No, we didn't. It's actually important. Not as
mm,
important. It's important to know that it's not always beautiful. It's not only positive. It's
mm,
life. And we're going to be together with that. And it's going to be, needs to be safe for them to show that part of them. And knowing that mom, even if she's right now not happy about that and it triggered her, is going to come back and apologize. And for you, you did it like nonchalantly, like say, of course I came and apologized and all that. Lerae, that doesn't happen in so many families.
I
And in so many
understand.
relationships, and we're talking about relationships, how important it is to come back and repair.
Mm,
Because if there is a capability of repair, the trust of bringing up those parts, more of the who we are, that secret chamber, start coming up because it would be safe to
mm,
know that there is a repair.
mm, mm. Yeah.
And that
Wow.
is so wonderful about life. Life is like that. I mean, we're going to hurt each other sometimes.
Yeah, and I speak about you're talking about fractures, and I align my aligned language to that is relationship accidents. And because a lot of the times they're unintentional, and and they result in fractures,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
there's these whoopsies that we can, and a thought that has just emerged while we're talking, because you and I both work in the leadership space. It's self-leadership is what we're really talking about too,
Yes.
which I think gets left for the corporate space. So I don't know what the like self-awareness is, the coaching space, but really it's about being the steward of your own experience and overriding one's own shame for the greater good, and because that is the gap. The gap is, and I can't tell you time and time. So I shared this experience because we were on that train. So instead of
Yeah.
changing directions, just staying on that one. But the most powerful aspect of relationship is how incredibly healing it is, and how the actual reality of being human sets us up to turn our back on one another, to avoid that shame, or revealing that to anybody. Like, our energy goes into depressing that. I mean, we can talk about
Right.
the pharmaceutical
Oh yeah.
world, to
Oh
how,
yeah.
and I know that, yet I've seen over the last 3 decades, and also, I guess, my personal development journey, and where I first engaged in a relationship for healing outside myself was when I was 21, and I'm now 55 and a half. So, it's been a journey. I forgot what I was going to say about that. But yeah,
It's yeah, yeah. You know, and I think you talked about just touch on that, but I think they probably will talk more about it next time because there's so much to
I
go
think
with
we
it.
need
It's
to
such
stay
a
on this track for a
yeah,
little bit.
no,
Yeah.
well, but I'm thinking like it's good that we're just talking in general about those so many things about relationship because there's so much comes with that. But one thing that I want to say that it's like talk about leaders, corporate, any kind of leaders, because for me it's like we're even leaders in the corporate, whoever is under you, you become their parents. Employees becomes
Well, it's a
kids.
system. Yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, it's a distance. So it's all started kind of like it all starts with you, and if you're capable of allowing yourself to be human to also
Mhm.
make mistakes, not be perfect, but be kind and open and
Mhm.
capable of doing what you did with your kids and say, like, I'm sorry, it was me, it was not that. Then it creates such a level of trust between everyone that it is safe to start bringing, because the safety inside, whether to the shame to come up, it will be shamed if it's not safe. Even when there is safety and we come from a trauma, then again, you don't tell somebody that it's safe when all their life that it wasn't safe and tell them, well, just start talking. We need to gradually provide that. And as it becomes safer, those parts other parts of us that maybe were shamed and weren't safe are start coming to the surface. And that's a leader just able to hold all these kids, that comes with their own history, with their own pain, with their own, all of us,
Yeah.
and basically hold that space for them, and there will be fractured and there will be something that even the leader is a person that used to be also behind, so it doesn't mean that they're better, it doesn't mean that they know more, it means that they're just have responsibility right now on somebody else. So it starts with them, with us as parents, to be aware of ours and work on ourselves in order to provide our kids something that we didn't have, not by decision but by actually growth.
Mm. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's wrap this. I think that was
Yeah,
something that
I
we're
lost you.
saying.
I lost you. The last minute was you were frozen.
Okay. Well,
So I don't know if it was frozen for you. Did you see it? It was frozen. Did you see it?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay, okay.
So you summed that up beautifully, and I'm grateful for that. One of the things that surfaced in what you were saying that I'll just bring forward, and we can continue dialoguing about that or something else. I think we should do a part two of
Absolutely.
this
Part two and three and four because it's a lot. You know what? It's
Okay.
really good. We can
Yeah,
take that relationship. So much comes with that.
because you just outlined a path forward to healing and to strengthening leadership and to accessing the power of relationship. Yet there's this sneaky little thing called self-deception
Yeah. Full
that
self. Yeah. Yeah.
which you call so okay, that perhaps is important for us to
Absolutely.
address as
It's
well.
also the protections, defenses that are
Yes,
protecting us. Yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah.
Safety and self-deception, and
Oh
why
yeah.
coaching works
Oh
and
yeah.
why therapy works, and
Fantastic.
it's a great next podcast. All right.
Sweetie, this is fantastic. I love that with you. I am the more I get to know you, the more I love all I love you. I mean, it's like in it's really feels good to me. We're honest, we're up, we're bringing all the shames that we're ashamed, we're not ashamed anymore, and we're talking about that this is the best. More than what we talk is the people how they will feel us.
Yeah. Okay, I'm
It's
gonna
the
pause the recording.
yeah.
All right.